Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on November the 8th, and welcome to our commentary. Got a couple of things that we're going to talk about today, but before I do, let me direct you to a post that I have over at the American Thinker this morning, and the post is about Mexico and what's happening in the state of Guerrero, which is where Acapulco is located. And the problem in the state of Guerrero is that the farmlands are have been turned into basically cocaine farms, where they're growing the cocoa leaves that eventually become cocaine. And this is because the farmers are making more money, in the cocaine business than whatever they were doing before. This is creating a big problem for the Mexican government. It is also a problem, of course, for us here in the United States. So it's just amazing. It's just amazing how the cocaine business is now impacting, the farms in Mexico, and making, the farmers make more money by being in the cocaine business than by, growing coffee as they were doing before in those regions. It's a scary situation. It's a scary situation, but that is reality south of the border. So check out my post over at the American Thinker today. It's called "It's the Season of Cocaine in Guerrero." That is the name of the post. Well, I want to begin with just a reaction to the situation regarding abortion. As you may know, a constitutional amendment passed in Ohio. The constitutional amendment basically says that a woman has the right to an abortion. And all of this comes from very well organized groups that have basically put this amendment as a referendum in the election. It is not as radical as people are saying that it is, because the state still has the ability to regulate abortion. But what it basically says is that the state of Ohio cannot pass a ban against abortion. In other words, abortion has to be legal in Ohio, according to this new amendment in the Constitution. And of course, the pro-life movement was very disappointed, and they should be, with this amendment. But I think the bigger picture here, the larger picture, is the question of message. And how do we handle abortion in the future? And we're going to have to accept a reality that there's going to have to be, in whatever we propose, whatever we support, there's going to have to be a window where women can get an abortion. Now, my personal belief is that abortion is, the taking of a life. So on a personal basis, I'm opposed to abortion. But I understand that when you're living in a secular country, that you may have to make some compromises. So I've always felt that what we should do is say, okay, 12 weeks or 15 weeks or something like that. And then that allows a woman to have an abortion during that time, in case of rape, in case of incest, or whatever other reason. And that way you diffuse the issue. I think when you ban abortion, when you say no abortion, that's a loser politically. Much the other way, when you say that you can have an abortion in the last trimester of the pregnancy, that's also a political loser as well. So I think the country has settled into a position where they are willing to accept abortion within restrictions. And the restrictions are generally 12 to 15 weeks. And I think that's where we should be as a party. We should say, okay, that's what we believe in, and that's what we're going to propose. Otherwise, we're going to have these abortion referendum where the other side organizes and out organizes us, and has a situation where they're winning elections on abortion when they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, because the reality is the Democrats are the extreme party when it comes to abortion, not Republicans, but they're winning because they're presenting their message a little bit better. So I think between now and 2024, we need to work on the message, particularly in some of these more competitive states. We need to work on the message, and the message ought to be that we believe that we're a pro-life party, but we're willing to accept an abortion situation or abortion position of 12 to 15 weeks, so that a woman can have an abortion if she wants to. And at the same time, you are restricting abortions in the later term of the pregnancy. That's where the country is, or whether we like it or not, but that's where the country is right now. And I think we have to settle on this and stop arguing about abortion, because there's a lot of other stories, frankly, that are more important to the country right now than arguing about abortion every 2 years. So let's have we saw this in Mississippi. There is a law that was passed in Mississippi, which is 15 weeks. Okay, that sounds to me like a reasonable compromise. 15 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. And let's settle this and move on to other areas that are frankly very important too, but for some reason we're not talking about it because everybody's consumed with the topic of abortion. Well, in Texas, they had some elections on Tuesday, and the big ticket item was the Texas property tax refund. I guess we're all property owners are going to get a tax refund in Texas, and I think that's a good thing. I support the legislature for doing this, and I support the governor for fighting for this. So this is a huge victory for the citizens of Texas. If you're a property owner, you're going to get a refund, or you're going to get, I guess, the opportunity to get some money back, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the people of Texas, and I think it's going to make Texas even more attractive as a place to move to and to build a house and become a property owner, and that's a good thing long-term for Texas. So I salute the voters for approving the property tax referendum. I think it's good, and I have not seen the numbers, but I'm sure that it was approved by pretty good numbers. Now the governor has called for another session, and that's to deal with school choice or the vouchers, and with this border law that he wants to pass. Both of these appear to be almost done. I mean, the voucher, they're still negotiating how that's going to get done. I think they will get it done. They will get it done, but they have to fine tune it just a little bit more. I understand the position of many Republicans in the rural areas who are trying to protect their schools. I understand that. And I can certainly understand where they're coming from. And I also understand the position of the suburban parents who want to have school choice. So there's opportunity there for a compromise. And I think we're headed in that direction. But I think Texas is going to be better off when we have school choice and when we have these vouchers. The kids are going to be better off. The parents are going to be better off. And there was a very interesting article in the Dallas Morning News in the last couple of days talking about how school choice is very popular with minority parents. And why wouldn't it be? Minority parents want the best for their kids, just like everybody else. So I think we're going to get it in the next session, but it's just frustrating. Political negotiating is always frustrating. That's just the reality of it. And you just have to deal with it, and you have to work with it, and we'll eventually get it done. Now, the border law, the one about, arresting people who cross the border and all of that, that's probably going to pass as well. It passed the House already, and it got to the Senate, but they couldn't get to it. That's probably going to pass as well in the upcoming session. And that's going to be challenged, obviously, right away by the other side, saying that Texas doesn't have the authority to do that. And I understand that point of view. The fact is that the border is a federal matter. But the problem right now is that the federal government is not doing anything on the border. The federal government has basically turned the border into a rather chaotic situation because they're not enforcing anything. So that's why I think Texas is acting in self-defense. I'm sure that Texas would rather not be spending the money that we're spending on the border, defending or protecting the border. I'm Texan, I don't know anybody in Texas who's happy having to pay taxes to do the job of the federal government. But on the other hand, you do have to protect your border. Otherwise, people are going to be coming in numbers that are going to be completely unmanageable. So it's a tough situation, but one that I believe the legislature will pass. And as far as school choice, I think the legislature will pass that as well. The vouchers, as they like to call them, I think that will pass. And as I said before, it's going to make Texas even more attractive for families to come here, because I think school choice attracts a lot of families who are interested in a good education for their kids. And they're also interested in having some control about what their kids are learning and what they're being educated. And that's what happens with school choice. You're, as a parent, you have a lot to say on what's happening with the schools and the school choice. A couple of things from this day in history. Back in 1864, Abraham Lincoln was reelected president. Now, if you remember from your history class, he was not doing real well in the summer of 1864. In fact, a lot of people thought he was not going to be reelected. But the war situation changed in the fall, and the Union began to have some big victories in the fall, and the mood of the country changed. And Lincoln was reelected easily in 1864. So that election, of course, turned out to be historic. And as you know, less than a year later, he was assassinated April 1865. So he had been in office for about a month or so after his second inauguration. And on this day in 1960, one of the most interesting elections of American history, the 1960 election between Kennedy and Nixon, that election was very close, super, super close. In fact, even to this day, nobody knows for sure who won that election. But it was eventually declared that Kennedy won the election. But the votes in Illinois and Texas and in other places were very controversial. President Eisenhower wanted Vice President Nixon to contest the election, called for a recount, but Nixon didn't do it. And I think it's probably smart that he didn't do it. He would have divided the country a great deal, and the country didn't need that in 1960 in the middle of the Cold War. So Nixon actually did something good for the country in 1960, accepting the results and moving on, even though there was lots of evidence that election was, let's just say, flaky at certain parts of the country. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.